Hey everybody, it's Charlie here. I'm standing outside of what used to be the Catholic Diocese of Buffalo Chancery or headquarters. And if you notice here, the Catholic Diocese of Buffalo headquarters are no longer. This used to say the Catholic Center on the above the front doors, and this building now has been purchased by a developer, and it is no longer the bishop's offices for the Catholic Diocese of Buffalo. I'm standing out here because this morning we had a news conference that we attended. Uh, Clergy sex abuse attorney Steve Boyd had a news conference at his offices in Buffalo to announce that committee of abuse survivors, six survivors who have really put in just an incredible amount of work to try to get this settlement with the Diocese of Buffalo finished after 6 years. They are pretty close now to a $326 million settlement with the Catholic Diocese of Buffalo. Uh, and I'm going to break down for you exactly where this money is going to come from. So, $150 million of that is going to come from what they call the Catholic entities, which really would be the Catholic parishes, some of the Catholic schools, other Catholic organizations. And the rest of that money, the bulk of this settlement money, is coming from insurance carriers for the Diocese of Buffalo from many decades while these molestations were going on. So, clergy sex abuse survivors, it was revealed today, have just this committee of six abuse survivors have put in over 300 uh, weekly meetings they've had to have over this process, 75 court appearances. They spoke today pretty eloquently about the toll that it's taken on them and where they are in the process. And it looks like sensed a note of optimism from Steve Boyd and from the other attorneys who were there, as well as the abuse survivors, that things are pretty close. So one of the things that the lawyers wanted to say today was that they're still working. So the money is part of the abuse settlement with the Diocese of Buffalo, but there's other things in here. There's child protection measures that the Survivors Committee is negotiating with the diocese as we speak to get those in as part of the settlement. Let me just consult my notes here. And yeah, Steve Boyd did say that that $326 million number is, he said that, that was a bigger number than they've gotten out of 99% of dioceses because the sex abuse survivors in Buffalo, so many, there's over 950 claimants in the Diocese of Buffalo uh, bankruptcy process, which allowed claimants to come forward and make claims, that were um, investigated and that were put in through the bankruptcy process. This is really an imperfect process. Many of them said they wanted to have their day in court, in the state court, and be able to challenge the diocese and those who covered this up. They were asked by reporters today whether these child protection measures and this money would help things, or whether there needed to be further measures of accountability. One of the things I asked was, and they to that answer they essentially said that yes, Bishop Michael Fisher, I believe, is going to give, or is expected, anticipated to give some sort of an apology, as he has in the past, to abuse survivors. One of the things I asked was, what about Richard Malone, Buffalo's the first bishop in the 172-year history of the Diocese of Buffalo to resign from office? Of course, he was at the center of many of these scandals. He spent many afternoons out here on the evening news, reporting on various scandals and the concealment of sexual abuse allegations under that bishop. Bishop Malone still lives in a strange house in the middle of a cemetery uh, in the town of Tonawanda, and did not show up to any of the survivor sessions, and that does not sit well with a lot of abuse survivors. So when I asked that question, they said absolutely, Bishop Malone should be a part of this process. He should, have to apologize or have some sort of accounting as far as this goes. Now, the other thing that's going to most likely be a part of the settlement is the disclosure of clergy abuse files. So this has happened in other dioceses where the dioceses are basically forced to disclose personnel files that show in detail how clergy sexual abuse was concealed by the diocese administrators over many years. And this if you ask survivors, this brings them, answers, because one of the things they would be able to get if this were happening in state court is they would be able to get those documents through discovery, and they'd be able to see who, when, where. Did the diocese know about this before they were abused? What did they do in response to the abuse allegations? How many parents came forward? How many survivors came forward? This is something that survivors say they really can't get their childhood back, but it does help to get some answers and some finality to this. So people have asked, how this 326 million number, if you divide that by about 950 clergy abuse survivors, that ends up being, I believe, just short of, it's over $300,000 per survivor, but that's not really the best figure because not everybody gets the same amount. So each survivor today who spoke said that, yes, this is a measure of accountability and something that does help because they've had to incur, thousands, tens of thousands, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical expenses, counseling, other things throughout their life to deal with, whether they've had addiction issues and just a lot of trauma through many decades. It always is inspiring to me to stand in the room with abuse survivors who, because these are people that a lot of the cases are my parents' age, and they're just, you wouldn't know that them on the street from anyone else that this had happened to them. They have, productive lives, but they decided to take a stand and not just come forward and make a claim, but to put themselves out there in front of the public through the ringer and go through so many of these meetings and to push. And make no mistake, the diocese has fought accountability, and they have fought the disclosure of all of these things for many years. Now, if you remember, just 7 or 8 years ago, you had diocesan attorney Terry Connors, you had other people saying, we don't have this problem here. The Diocese of Buffalo is a leader when it comes to abuse prevention. Those were not true statements, and we exposed those statements to be very untrue. And in fact, the opposite was going on. Clergy sexual abuse here since the 1950s was rampant to a level that we didn't see perhaps anywhere besides Boston, and it's something that stayed concealed for many years. So to be in front of this building today and to see that Bishop Malone's offices here have been moved out, and that they're moving to a smaller location. Maybe there's something symbolic in that as well, as far as the stature and the trust and the deference of this institution has been heavily damaged by the deliberate actions of the leaders to conceal this sexual abuse of children, and in many cases of vulnerable adults, parishioners, Catholics. Let's remember the survivors are Catholics here, who in most cases attended churches and their faith was weaponized against them. So as far as I'm going to consult my notes here. As far as, let's see here, as far as these files, these abuse files, it's believed that they might be housed by a local university. That's what's happened in other cases. And then as far as the timeline goes, the diocese and the creditors are expected to file an amended plan of bankruptcy reorganization in August, and Steve Boyd said that there could be payouts by the end of the year or early next year, but those come with a lot of caveats. People are saying, we need to be careful about that, because if this is any indication, things move slowly. The wheels of justice move very slowly, especially in bankruptcy court. This is now the longest Roman Catholic bankruptcy in the history of the United States. There's many people who believe that the use of bankruptcy court is really not appropriate for entities like the Catholic Church or the Sackler family of Purdue Pharma, who essentially are able to wash their assets, or wash their liabilities through this process. That bankruptcy was created for small businesses, for them to emerge. But this is the system that exists. This is a system that has been used by the Diocese of Buffalo. And it appears that after 6 long years, this may finally be coming to some sort of a conclusion in the coming months. So I'm going to have more about this, and I'm going to have some of the videos directly from the survivors themselves right here on my Substack page. I'm going to get that ready later today, have that ready first thing in the morning. Thank you for joining, and please comment below with any questions that you would like me to take to the diocese. Thank you.